Am I? Are you ready? That's the question. That's the better question.
I was born ready. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Welcome back to Show Boys. We're here covering episode 9, the after hours of Severance season 2, the penultimate episode. We're excited you're here with us. We're excited to be talking about it. I'm excited to not be on my porch anymore.
Yes.
And I can confirm that our surprise guest is lined up, ready to go. So get very excited. It's a super surprise guest that I can
I'm
announce.
excited.
And pretend to not be disappointed next week when you actually find out who the surprise guest is.
I'm super excited because I feel like I haven't seen this person in a long time.
Yeah, same. But yeah, it'll be fun next week, but let's not skip ahead. We have a fun episode tonight. Before we get into it, though, thank you to our top tier patrons, Josie, Tim, B, Yusuf H, and our other Patreon members. You guys are awesome. Your support means a lot to us. If you're wondering how you could support the podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/showboyspodcast. Check it out. Also, make sure you subscribe here to the YouTube channel.
Yes.
Like, follow, review, rate everywhere you're listening to this on. We've been getting a lot more listens on our audio only platforms during this season, so thank you guys. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or whatever, make sure you follow, write us a review. It helps. Also, House of David is currently running. We just released episode 5 yesterday, so make sure you're checking that out. It's been pretty fun. Only 3 more episodes of that to come. So anyways, Jeff,
Yeah.
where do you want to start, man?
Let's just start with
a lot of things happened.
Some stuff happened. Some people said things.
Yeah.
Some pretty crazy, weird things. One thing I do want to say is that this episode is setting up a lot for the finale.
Indeed.
And man, I'm kind of nervous, but very excited at the same time. Because they need to go out with a bang, and I feel like they will. So yeah, let's just start at the top, I guess.
That's a great place to start.
Indeed. So at the beginning, we hear the sound of a clock ticking, and then we see Helena doing laps in a pool.
Mm-hmm.
In some, we see the winter wonderland in the background. It is always winter in Kier PE. So one thing that I was wondering, and then another channel kind of, thought the same way. I'm wondering if this is a part of how they're balancing Helena's tempers by making her be in water, since she was almost killed by, drowning. So facing a fear or something. But yeah, that's pretty short. And then we see her walking down a hall, and then we get a nice view of more of the winter wonderland. And then she walks up some stairs into a rather large room where her father is.
Yeah. Just realized
overlooking.
I've been muted.
Yeah, you've been muted. Yeah, he's waiting for her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a momentous day, as we will soon find out. This is the day that Cold Harbor would have been finished. But
keyword would have.
Right. But Mark is, busy having brain surgery in his basement.
Yeah.
Going through a really crazy thing right now.
It was really cool to be in a new place, just place, like a different house, a different part of Kier PE.
It's a large house, by the way.
It very large, seemed to be very nice. Also seemed to be like in the backyard of Lumen. Is that
Yeah,
kind of what you
yeah, because I mean, it zoomed out, like, we
and
saw.
the towers
Yep,
there?
the Lumen branded water tower, which
And
I wonder if something's in the water, literally.
mm,
Like,
you've been bouncing around with this with the droplet in the logo between
yeah, I
water or
think
blood.
multiple
Yeah.
meanings or multiple,
I think
whatever.
it's cool to see too that like I mean what I surmised from it was Helly still lives or Helena still lives with her father.
Right.
Um and to go kind of like go with what we said earlier in the season about like maybe why she was so obsessed with watching Helly's interactions with Mark on the severed floor was like that she does not get any like love at all, like of any kind, whether it's like romantic or just like
In general.
familial like a father's love or because her dad is like so cold to her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's like eating the hard boiled egg like so like taking the most petite bites ever, completely avoiding the yolk. I don't know if you saw that, just
Yep.
eating the egg whites. But then, then he's like, I wish you'd take it raw. It's like, what? What are you talking about, dude?
A weird thing to say to your daughter.
So weird. So weird.
I mean, in all fairness, Kier did eat his eggs raw. That was his favorite breakfast, was eggs. He'd have
Was
raw
he
eggs.
Gaston or something?
Gaston. Yeah. So there's a couple things in this little moment between the two of them. He doesn't want to eat. He says he'll just watch her eat, which is weird.
It's so weird.
So the cool thing with the egg, there's a lot of really cool like imagery here. She splits the egg into 6 perfectly divided pieces. And
I wonder if that like egg splitter is like a real thing because
I think it
this
is.
sounds very weird, but we go through a lot of hard boiled eggs here in this house, and that would be kind of cool to be able to cut them like apple slices.
I think that does exist, or maybe they just have an apple slicer, but they use it for eggs. Who knows?
That's a big egg.
That's a big egg. So yeah, there's 6 equal, like the same size. And then the plate. Did you see the plate?
Yeah,
The two
what was it, like
women
two
and the little
people in the
boy.
yeah.
So the one woman was wearing a red dress. The other woman was wearing a blue dress.
Yeah.
And the creepy boy child was freaking out. And then she arranged those pieces around his head. So a lot of imagery going on. And then when she was eating the egg, she's only eating the white, which
Clearly she's racist.
Clearly, totally avoiding the yolk, which could be the innie. Eggs have an outer part and then an inner part. So on my second watch, he made a noise, and I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't know if he was clearing his throat or something, but he, like, the captions say whine, like he's whining. Like he whimpered. Like, what's bro doing? So after he says his weird thing, taking the eggs raw, she puts a fork down and then they leave.
Yeah.
And then they're taking a car ride. And then this is when we see the Lumen water tower. And then from there, we go to Milkshake and Miss Huang, where we learn her first name is Eustace.
Yes.
And he's saying that today marks the end of the Wintertide Fellowship, which I felt like this was a little abrupt. Like, I mean, he talked about it, right? But nothing really happened to suggest that she was like close to completing it or whatever. He just said that
well,
he was.
because last time that they talked about it, he's like, basically, you need me to be considered, wintertide material.
Yeah.
And then like we haven't really been in the office since that episode.
So I mean, to be fair, a lot of stuff could have happened that we didn't see, but she looks very upset through this whole process. He says your bed will be moved from your parents to Gunnel Egan Empathy Center in Svalbard to steward global reforms. That's quite the title for a child. That's like going from.
Is she Greta?
Right. Yeah, she's an apprentice basically going to like, the big wigs. She thought she'd be, finishing out the quarter or whatever. He basically says, you'll finish out your duties for the day and then a shuttle will come and get you. But before any of that, he says, lay the game on the table. A material sacrifice must be made.
Not cultish at all.
Nope. So, and as we remember from before, she was playing this in the office. The ring toss game with Kier in a one-piece bathing suit. This is a proper totem, apparently. And then, like, he lays out a nice little towel thing and places the game on it, and then she proceeds to smash it with the bust of is it James or Kier? And then
it's an Egan head.
It's an Egan head. And then Milkshake commands again 3 times. And then the last time it's a similar tone as when he was saying grow to himself.
Yeah. And we, maybe a little foreshadowing of some other conversation revolving around again.
Yes.
Later.
Yes.
Question.
Yep.
With this show and their use of the name Egan, how does it make you feel about John Egan? Does it change your feelings?
No.
Different
spelling, so we're good.
Okay.
No, John's awesome. Totally.
Yeah, good.
Separated.
Your good friend John.
Yeah. We're cool. We're good.
Yeah. Or if
he also lives in a winter wonderland too. So
I'm just saying, maybe he's like the black sheep of the Egan family.
I mean, if you're gonna be a black sheep for anything, that would be the thing.
That's true.
Oh boy. So next we are with Dylan and Gretchen. Audi
breaks
Dylan.
My heart.
Breaks my heart too. She confesses to kissing his innie. He is clearly upset, and understandably so. He basically threatens to quit and end him. You use my own body to cheat on me. Maybe I go in and quit and end his existence. Whew. Yeah, that's pretty rough.
It's just that's why I love this show, because it like raises these questions about the gray area. Like, I know all season long we've been talking about how they're making the distinction between the two, the innies and the outies, and they are considered unique souls, right?
Yep.
But also, like, they're not. It's literally Dylan.
It is Dylan. Yeah.
And like, it makes me so sad for Gretchen, because she's like, but it's you. But like, before you started to suck, before you became apathetic about everything,
Yeah.
So it's just, man, it's tough to see, because
it is tough.
Dylan's upset and she's upset because she's like, I mean, I get it, but also like, it's still you.
Yeah, it's tough. And then that's not as tough as the rest of that story. So now
I mean, like, what do you think about that though? Like,
I mean, she's, absolutely cheating on him. That's the way I see it. Like, obviously, it's the same person, but the other one doesn't know. Like, different personalities, different consciousnesses.
So, like, if someone had, like, dissociative identity disorder or something, so like Mr. Robot, right? Or like the guy from Split.
Yeah.
Different personalities, and like when a different personality comes and takes control, like, are you cheating then?
I think it gets complicated because in that situation, normally you would be going through some kind of, you'd be speaking to a
Like trauma
doctor.
response, and
But
and
you'd be
seeing
having
like
treatment. You'd be
medical
going through
help.
something.
Yeah.
This is different.
Like a voluntary.
Yeah, you're choosing to do this.
That's true.
We don't really. Do we know why Dylan chose to do it?
Not outside of him saying like
he's a screw up.
Just that like this is the only thing that he hasn't screwed up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't really know, and we also kind of still don't really know why Irving chose to sever exactly, right? I mean, we get a little bit of hint this episode, but like also still don't. It's not like confirmed, set in stone. But
right.
Yeah. So yeah, with Dylan, you're right. We don't really know, but he volunteered to do it. So.
But yeah, I don't know. Either way, I feel for him. Like it sucks. Like Audi Dylan and Innie Dylan, it's just a bad situation that just sucks.
Yeah.
For everyone.
And Gretchen just
what
is she supposed to do?
Well, I mean, this isn't a normal situation, right? So like usually when someone cheats, they see that the grass is greener on the other side and they're with someone else, but maybe in her mind it's like, well, it's still you know. Like
and this was
you just don't know it.
This was before the grass died. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a very a tricky moral situation. Like it's.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, though, I would still consider it cheating.
You would. I'm just kidding.
Because Audi Dylan has no idea.
No, he doesn't.
And she's doing it behind his back. I mean, if you're being secretive about it,
she did lie.
Probably something, and she lied about it.
Yeah, so she did lie about it.
Pretty telling. That is not right or normal.
True. Look at you making all these valid points.
I try. All right. So now we get our boy Irving. Finally, he comes home, sees the dog just sitting there staring off into a certain direction, and we see Bert sitting in the room reading through some of the notes that Irving had written, and he's quoting some of these notes. They may also be connected to several recent disappearances or deaths. Goodman may have been a low-level enforcer or goon. Irving insists that he didn't mean it.
I love how the like catch up. He's like, goon. That's not lumen.
Yeah, that's not how
verbiage.
We didn't talk like that. And yeah, Irving's like, I didn't mean it. That was before I knew all these things, whatever. And then Bert is like, take a ride with me. Okay. And then Irving's like, I'm sorry, I can't. And I
gotta wash my hair.
I gotta. I'm not even ready. And then Bert insists, and dude, Christopher Walken, it's just, he does such a great job. I don't know if he's like being intentional about it, but he's just so sinister in this moment. Like every part of the season of him being an Audi is just so sinister looking. It's like, I feel like he's up to something bad.
Yeah. Have you seen the memes of him like standing, staring the picture? He's like in a white shirt and pants. And it's like the way I look at you when I'm about to ask you if you're going to eat your pickle or something. I'll find it. It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
But he even in that meme, he looks like he's about to end you.
Yeah. But like it's crazy the flip side of that of him as an innie, he didn't look that way. He looked okay. He looked normal. Like he wasn't going to kill you. He looked like a good guy. So Irving goes with him. So then after that, we get this really cool aerial shot of Lumen, which I'm convinced it's like it looks like a robot head because the two like pawns look like eyes.
Yeah, you've been reading too much Electric State, man.
It's possible. It just looks like some kind of like cult symbol. Like I just can't get it out of my head. And it's crazy how like symmetrical it is, but it has subtle differences. And I feel like that's could be intentional, maybe not. I just maybe looking into things so much.
Yeah, it's super cool. I love every overhead shot they do of the outside of Lumen. Like it's just very cool looking. Like I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, I got the hiccups.
Oh no. All right. So we see Helly get out of the elevator. She goes to MDR. No one's there. She's looking for Mark, everybody. And then it goes to Mark with Devin in the car. I love their banter. It's so hilarious. And she asks him, "Where are you?" And he's like, "In a smelly freaking car." And she's like, "What about me? Am I a copy machine or am I me?" And he says, "Tragically, you are you." Oh, dude. Yeah, he's a great actor. And like the more he like gets unhinged, the more I like him.
Yeah. He does the deadpan douche like really good.
Yeah. But this whole series, he's been great. He's just awesome. So he's saying that this is a mistake, right? And this is probably one of my favorite lines that she's had is she says, "I'm sorry, the wind was whistling over the hole in the back of your skull, so I didn't quite get that." Oh man.
True. Did they ever patch that up? I mean, my dude.
Oof. I mean, if it is whistling, you might have a problem.
Yeah, I saw that drill bit.
Yeah, and I saw the frickin' whatever it was pulling his skull apart or the back of his head apart.
Yeah.
So they are going to meet Cobelvig. We remember at the last part of the last episode, Cobelvig is on the phone with
everything.
Mark. Yep. Could be a trap, but we need her. That's what Devin is saying. Milkshake. Wait a minute. I think I missed something here.
Mark is definitely not a fan of meeting Cobelvig, though.
No, absolutely not. So I did miss a part. Right after we see the aerial shot of Lumen, we are at the testing floor where Dr. Maurer is creepily watching Gemma.
Oh, yes.
She's just sitting in the room, sulking, which understandably so. I would be too. He then calls Drummond because he's looking at the Cold Harbor screen. The numbers haven't moved. So he says the numbers aren't moving, and then Drummond calls Milkshake, tells him to get Mark there now.
Yeah.
So now Milkshake is calling Mark. He doesn't answer. And then right after that, we see Helly storming into Milkshake's office. And he's saying, this is non-disclosure policy. I can't, blah, blah, blah. And she's wondering if he's okay because of the nosebleed, and he's department chief. Milkshake explains that Dylan is now the chief in Mark's absence. And she says, kind of like you and Cobel, replace one part with another. and he says, "That's enough, Helly R." In which she replies, "Don't you mean Helly E?" Dude, I love her, like, just her combative
Mhm.
attitude. It's great because it's. I feel like that carries over because Helena, you can see that a little bit, that side of her a little bit,
Yeah.
but she's too like. I mean,
When
she's
yeah,
she's an
like when
Egan, so she can't
right.
really.
When she's, like, pushed her far enough, the combativeness comes out, but, like, Helly R on the floor is much, looser with her mouth filter.
Which I love,
Yeah.
and so she says that, and
She's
Milkshake.
she's kinda like it's funny because her and Mark are kinda like the opposites, right? Like, any Mark is a little more not reserved, but, like,
He's a good boy. Like he
he,
follows the
like
rules,
yeah,
and
but, like, on the outside,
he doesn't.
he's
Yeah,
the deadpan douche, you know?
right, right.
It's interesting, like, I wonder if that was an intentional thing to make their characters basically, like, the same but opposite, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a cool dynamic because they're. I mean, each of them are different, like
Mhm.
polar opposites of each other. Innie versus outie.
The
Um,
one, though, Irving, I think, is the most similar between the 2.
level.
Like,
Yeah,
I think his innie and outie are, like, very, very similar.
yeah, but there's
But
a.
the other 3, you're right, like, they are, like,
I
very
think
very drastic
Outie
differences.
Irving has a darker side, a darker tone to the
Yeah.
way he carries himself, but it doesn't really like affect his character too much. It just shows on
Mhm.
him, whereas everyone else is very outward
Right.
about
Right.
with the way they are. Um, so um, after she says, "Don't you mean Helly E?" He says, "Helena Egan is my employer. You are my subordinate, and this behavior constitutes insubordination." And she's like, "Yeah, no crap." And then she storms out, and he says, "Leave the door open," as she slams it shut.
Yeah, I
I
love
love
it.
it.
At this point, though, I am starting to feel bad for Milkshake, even though, like, he's, like, not a good guy.
I
I'm,
don't
like,
know,
feeling
man.
bad for him. I just want
I
things to start going right for Milkshake.
Okay, here's my hot take. I feel like things will turn for a minute, but then they'll get really bad for him. Like I think he'll like start to stand his ground
Mhm.
because I mean there's a one key moment in this episode that he does, but there's another moment where he shows like a more like empathetic side
Mhm.
towards Mark. And I'm thinking because Milkshake has kind of been building up to this, and we keep seeing where he's like he'll kind of say things like when he had the review with Drummond
Mhm.
where he was not combative at all, but like kind of pushing back a little bit.
No.
um Not now, like it's been like ramping up for him throughout
Mhm.
this season. So I like I said, I think it will play out that way, but just a moment, and then he'll be put right back in his place, probably by Drummond, because Drummond is that dude don't mess around.
No,
Um,
he doesn't.
so all right, now as the scene fades, it fades to Dylan and Gretchen sitting in Lumen. So it's any Dylan, and it's funny because as it fades, we see Milkshake's head like in between them as it fades to them. I thought that was weird.
Uh,
There are a couple um, fades like this where like someone will fade away as the other scene kind of fades in.
mhm.
Like it happens with Helly later
Yeah.
on. I just thought that was interesting and funny. Um, so we were with Dylan and Gretchen, and Gretchen explains that she told Dylan's outie about them. And Dylan was like, was he glad for us?
No.
Dylan has such like an innocence about him. Like
Yeah.
he's just a regular guy, you know?
Yeah, dude.
And he's fallen in love with his outie's wife, you know?
Yeah. Which is very
So,
weird. You mean his wife?
right?
Yeah.
And she tells him that no, he was not glad for us. And Dylan says he should be happy. I make you happy. And she explains that she can't see him anymore. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come.
Mm-hmm.
And like she goes to leave, he's like coming after her, like my life started with you, or when I met you. And she's like, no, it didn't. You have so much here, blah blah blah. And then he gets down on one knee and proposes to her with a ring made from one of his Chinese finger traps.
Yeah.
And this is heartbreaking
It
because
is.
he genuinely loves her. Like he knows that they're together on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but there's obviously a connection there that he feels, obviously, but
Yeah.
she is basically ending it and he wants to continue. He's like, I know I'm just an innie, but I love you all the way.
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, oh.
And she did a great job, man. She, like, you could tell that she was so like torn. Like, that she
She
wanted to
wanted
say
to
yes,
say yes. Yeah.
but she couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So she walks away and he yells out to her while he is still kneeling. Oh, so that's rough. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
You hate to see it.
It was very tragic episode for Dylan.
Oh man, on so many levels. No pun intended. um, so he's sitting there, playing with the paper ring, and then it transitions to him back at MDR with the same ring,
Mm-hmm.
and he's sitting with Helly. Excuse me, and she says, "Keep it, give it to someone you meet down here." He's like, "It's just O&D and the goat people." And he says, "She's my wife," and she's like, "She's not your wife. No one would treat someone they love the way she's treating you."
Mm.
Um,
Helly's just trying to be a good friend, and then Dylan's just being a big old turd.
he is, but like he's upset, and rightfully so. And they're talking about, they don't have anybody, they don't have any family.
Mm-hmm.
She says that Irving was his family, and he left Dylan a message, and then he says, "It's your fault we're down here at all, right?" Oh, yeah. And
Jerk.
he's like, "What? How come we couldn't tell when you were gone?" And she's like, "Irving could," and he's like, "Well, Mark couldn't."
Oh,
And then he's
burn,
like,
dude.
"I guess I'm just a jerk down here too." And then he walks out.
Yeah, you are.
Ooh.
You are just a jerk
Ah.
down here, buddy.
No, he's not. I mean, he has his moments, but like, I feel like he's a good dude. Like he's just.
He's definitely someone you'd want as your friend, I think.
He would be the perfect work buddy.
Yeah.
Like joking around with, and the banter,
Mm-hmm.
having a good time.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, all of them I think would be good friends. All
Yeah,
their innies.
but not their outies.
No,
Their
definitely
outies
not
are
their
a bunch of
outies.
turds.
That is true.
So after this, we go to and this is the part where it fades. Like you got Helly's face fading into the water as the next scene where
Mm.
Cobelvig is meeting Mark and Devin. She drives up and she gets out of the car. She's like, "Hello, Mark. How are you?" And it's like, oh my gosh, so good. My wife is being held prisoner in Lumen, and I just got brain surgery in my basement. How have you been? I love it. I love it.
Yeah, just a typical weekend.
Yeah, And he's like, "How have you been?" And she's like, "We're allies now." He's like, "Oh, we're allies now? We're not neighbors anymore?" So Kobelvig is explaining that they need to wait until it's evening because it's perilous.
Yes. It's even perilous at night, but we'll wait for evening.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she's talking about Cold Harbor and says that if you've already completed it, well, she's already dead. Talking about Gemma.
Which is very interesting. What do you make of that? She's already dead. Hasn't she already died? And she's alive right now. So what the heck is Cold Harbor going to do? What is Cold Harbor, Jeff?
I don't know.
You're supposed to know.
I feel like from Kobelvik's standpoint, she knows what will happen as soon as Cold Harbor is completed. So saying if it's completed, then she's dead. She's already dead, so there's no point in all this. But I think...
You think that's like a figurative? She's already dead?
No, I think it's literal.
Oh, geez.
So I think that Mark knows that she's alive, but this is obviously upsetting because just a few days ago or whatever, he was convinced that, well, no, not days ago, probably months ago, just found out that she's still alive. And then having the awareness or the realization that she's alive still, and then to hear her Kobelvig say that she's dead, or she's probably going to be dead.
Yeah.
It's upsetting, which then he gets in her face and says she better be alive.
Right. Yeah. By the way, if you finished your work project, you killed her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, like, seriously though. Audi Gemma died. We're all led to believe. But like, did she actually die? Or like, why would the cops come and tell Mark that she's dead if she didn't actually die?
I don't think she died. She probably got really hurt.
So maybe like, yeah, so she was, they come to get Mark. She's at that time severely injured, and then like maybe at the hospital or something, like Lumen takes her. Something like that.
My theory is that Lumen had targeted them early on, which is the flashback of them meeting at the university.
Which you pointed out they were giving blood. So like, if Lumen's collecting blood and looking for certain things in somebody's like DNA or blood type or whatever, they would be able to pick their targets, like you're assuming here.
So, and I'm trying not to get too off track here, but
let's go join Cobelvig in the woods here.
Okay. So I feel like Lumen is targeting fertility. They're looking for...
I feel like they picked the wrong person.
Maybe they didn't.
Maybe they didn't. You're right. Okay.
Maybe they took her blood. Okay. So we're on the track that this is very cultish, right?
Mm-hmm.
From things that I've seen from cults, not from experience, but from watching...
From all the cults I've been in.
Hey, they don't call me Father G for nothing, okay?
That's true. He does have like 17 kids, so he knows all about the fertility cults.
So, like, have you seen The Handmaid's Tale?
I have not, but I heard it's a great show.
Okay, another culty type situation where the leader of the cult has relations with multiple women to spread his seed out into the world, to spread the Egan name. So maybe, it's kind of like when you're a donor, an egg donor or whatever. People go to look for different traits of the parents, and maybe Lumen, knowing the DNA from their blood, like what they see, so they pick them for testing. So they recruit them to Lumen, or they take Gemma, but recruit Mark for some extra testing because there's potential there from their DNA. So what better way to take Gemma, but to make it look like an accident and that she died? They take her to a Lumen facility to give her treatment to keep her for themselves, but make Mark feel like she's gone, but also to give him a drive to join Lumen to sever because he can't handle the grieving. Wild, I know.
It's not as wild as you might think.
But there's another part in this episode where it really makes me believe it even more when they get to the cabin. And we'll touch on that when we get there.
The birthing cabin?
Yes. So let's get back on track.
Yeah,
we'll put a pin in that. And
Chad.
We'll pick that up in a minute. I
like it though. I like it.
Yeah, I mean,
makes sense.
Cults are weird, man. So like it tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and if there's anyone whose word I trust about cults, it's you.
Hey, that means a lot, man. Thanks. So now
it's a good time for Beck to walk in. He said, "I'll be praying for you."
It's not true. Don't believe him.
Totally true.
It's not. Oh my gosh! You know what? I have an idea because I'm going to stop my camera for a minute. I need to get the not Klaus. I need to get Irving's watermelon head for the avatar.
Yes, you do.
Okay, back on track. So now we are with before that, Mark is like, F this, we're leaving, we can't do this. But Devin kind of walks him back, and there's no other option, and it's for Gemma.
Right.
So now we are back in Lumen with Helly, and she's going to the party room to get the paper. And there's some short scenes here, and we see Dylan walking down the hall, and then he eventually says, F this place. And then we get Bert and Irving in the car, and Bert is reassuring Irving that he's never hurt anyone. I just drove people places. I didn't ask what happened once they got there. And Irving's like, is that what today is? Like, I feel so bad for Irving. Like, he's just,
I know.
He breaks my heart, man.
It's rough.
I feel like Irving, they all, like, man, it's just hard, man. So then we get Dylan filling out a resignation request.
It's literally checking everything. Did you catch what some of the boxes said?
I mean, I saw them, but I didn't.
The only one that I specifically noticed was one of them said loneliness. So I think it's like like what is making you feel like you can't continue to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's part of like the testing of the severance program. Maybe like they get enough people to quit and see what areas so they can target those to eliminate those types of feelings.
Yeah. Maybe they'll send him to the testing floor to teach him a lesson.
Transfer them over to goats. Never be lonely with an
What?
office full of goats.
What if they transfer consciousnesses to goats?
Oh my gosh. Goat Dylan, the Dilly goat.
Dude, that was great.
Okay.
I'll have to clip that.
Heard it here first. You know, we still never got any answers about the 20s.
We didn't. Or the shadow people.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if we talked about this. We probably did. But remember when Mark was running to the wellness part to find Gemma? And then there's a mysterious figure in the background in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Shadow Mark.
Is 20?
Maybe not. Just throwing it out there. We couldn't see.
I hope we get some answers about those because they were definitely a thing.
We probably won't, but we might.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. There's so much happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think they'll have time to explain it for us. Not right now, at least.
Unbelievable. Unacceptable.
So there's also, so when he's filling out the form, there's a spot at the bottom that has a box for the Audi to respond. So I thought that was funny. So Milkshake says, I'm sure you know this is very disappointing and reeks of ingratitude. Dang. Guilt trip much? Like,
oh, gosh.
Dylan doesn't care. He's filling it out and he's like, okay. He tosses his badge on the counter.
As Milkshake's like reaching out for it.
Such a middle finger. Yeah. And he's like, please report to the elevator and wait. Like, what time? Like, what time is this taking place? How long does he have to wait till the end of his shift? You know, we don't know.
It just sits there
for hours. But before he leaves, Miss Huang apologizes and says, I should have facilitated better. And he says, it's not your fault. And then one of my favorite parts of the episode is right now. Milkshake versus Drummond.
Oh, dude, this is so great.
Drummond starts off by saying, so this is tightening the leash. Lumen's finest day. This is your fault. Milkshake says, I followed protocol, but I thank you for your remonstration. In which Drummond says, a needlessly complex word for a simple idea. Apologize for the word. In which Milkshake says, I apologize. And Drummond says, shorter. Milkshake says, I'm sorry. Again. And he says, say it again. And then the tense music. And then the epic stare down. And then Milkshake replies with, devour fetulence. It means eat poop, Mr. Drummond.
Yes. I love it.
The way that Milkshake is so like, so calm and like owning the moment. This was a win for him in my book.
Oh yeah. Because not only does he do that sick, super high vocabulary burn on him, but then he's like, basically, hey, I can only manage these people when they're in my office.
Yeah.
So this is a failure on your part, essentially.
Yeah. He says, to put that monosyllabically, I can't even say it. It's not my fault what Mark does when he's not at work. It's yours. And then he mic drop and walks away.
Yeah. I also love how he says it like very slowly for him. He's like, yeah. It's
You're
great.
only
It was great.
upset because you're too stupid to understand my words,
Yeah, dude, it's
basically.
so great. I love that scene so much. I
I
think I,
like
like,
I
chatted you or
cheered.
something.
I cheered. I'm like, "Oh, so good." And I think I messaged you like, "Dude, Milkshake is the boss." Um,
Yeah, I gotta find what I put.
so
Yeah.
while you're looking, um,
It said, "Dang, Milkshake grew a pair with Drummy."
he sure did.
And then
And I
you
think,
said something also. Yeah, we were both very hyped about that scene.
yeah, dude, I was, like I said, I think I cheered. I was like, yeah, I was so pumped. Um, I think that, so Lumen uses the fear tactic for like being the boss and managing people.
Mhm.
And Milkshake knows this because he does this too, but he's calling BS basically and is standing up for himself, which is great.
Mhm.
So yeah. So now we're back with Mark and he is calling Milkshake. He tells him that he's at a clinic in Soil Hill, which is probably a made up place.
Yeah.
Um, he wanted to get a few more tests because he was worried about the nosebleeds. Legit. But Milkshake says, let me know where you are. I'll have a car come pick you up and you can, you could come here. You need to be under Lumen care. And then Mark admits that he's not sick. He just needed a day.
Yeah. Don't
Hey,
we all?
I need a whatever mental health day,
Yeah.
which is legit in his case. Um,
Yeah.
so Milkshake asks why. He's like, "Can I ask why?" And Mark's like, "No." It's life stuff. Isn't that what Lumen's all about? Balance. I mean, work is just work, right? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, and it's like it kind of speaks to a bigger thing. Like it is kind of funny and absurd how much corporations and workplaces like think they own and control the workers. Like you don't need to know. I just can't be there. Like I'm
Right,
not like a slave of Lumen. Like I come there on my own free will to provide services for you.
right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
but it's different in this because on the Audi side, yes, they are doing it by their own free will, but the innies, it's against their free will
Yeah.
at this moment because they're all like, "This is crap. Lumen is really sketchy, and we
Mhm.
don't like it, and we're being forced to be down here." So, I think it's kind of, I mean, you're obviously right, like in a normal situation, um, but there's this sense of like hopelessness for the innies because like number one, they basically have no rights or like they can't just quit like because their Audis are just going to send them back down there, and then they have this business that's basically controlling them like robots, like they're not actually people.
Right.
So it's like it's a double whammy. Like they're just screwed.
Yeah. So you
Um,
think like whenever someone does quit, like it would have to be the Audi quitting for them to like go through with it kind of? I mean, I know we saw Dylan fill out the like resignation form, but like Helly tried to quit and then Helena sent her back in. So like would it have to come from the
repeatedly.
Audi first, right? For it to be like considered.
I
Not
think
that it
so.
matters at all, just a question that popped up into my head.
Well, if you remember, um, Mark, when Milkshake goes to visit Mark in the beginning of the season,
Hmm.
and they're sitting at at the table,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I'll be back to work. And then Milkshake is like really giving him the guilt trip, basically. Um, but yeah, Mark, I think at that point he like wanted to quit. he was done. Like, it was crap. When the veil started to lift for Mark, I think. Well, for all of them, because of the OTC, it really revealed a lot for them, not just for us. So I thought Milkshake was going to flip on Mark, because remember in the elevator when Milkshake got in his face and was like, "Did you tell Helly that you had a moment in the tent?" So this was a shock, because he didn't flip out, and he just like kind of sat on the edge of his desk and staring at the iceberg painting. It was totally calm, and he was like, "I have your word you will report to work tomorrow." Like, he was totally chill. And Mark's like, "Yeah, I'll be there." And he's like, "Good. Thank you for calling. Goodbye."
Yeah.
That's a different side of Milkshake. And I feel like,
but I think like, I don't think he can do that like to the Audis, right? I don't think he can. I don't know if like it's a personal choice by Milkshake, or if it's just like what he said to Drummond, like,
it's not
he
my
can't.
play.
Yeah, they're the Audis. But if it was the innie, like, we'd have an elevator scene, right?
Right.
But since he was talking to the Audi, he has to like save face and keep the good image going, right?
Because he wants them to come back.
Yeah.
So if he's like giving him a hard time too much, then Mark's just going to say, "Screw you." But we all know that he's not going to do that, because he has to get the Gemma. So no matter what happens, Mark's determined to get the Gemma. All right. So next we are at the train station with Bert and Irving. This part was sad. I felt bad for Irving a little bit. Bert's basically giving Irving a ticket to leave Kier for good and not to come back. And Irving asks, "Well, won't Lumon come after you?" Which he doesn't respond, or he doesn't answer that question. He basically says, "I got severed because I thought I could be innocent again, but then my innocent part fell in love with you." And they go back and forth with like, Irving wants to remember, and Bert's like, "Probably better that we don't."
Yeah.
So yeah, and they basically, shake hands, and Bert says, "Bon voyage, buddy." And then he leaves the station. So that's that. With his dog. Irving's story is sad because he's alone. Like, I think that's his thing, is he's alone and lonely. So it's tough for him because he's finally found something that he doesn't remember, but he wants to remember, and he wants to have that. So that part for me is tough, because I feel for him,
Yeah,
lonely,
and like,
lonely dude. Just
the only thing that he knows is that he thinks he liked whatever he had, but he doesn't remember whatever he has.
Whatever that was. Yeah.
It's just like, man, that's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, it is.
You're like, I'm pretty sure I like that. I wish I could remember. So I could,
it's
try
like
to do that again.
It's like having a dream that felt really real, but then you can't remember it at all, but you felt it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, then we see Dylan sitting and waiting for the elevator, and then we see Miss Huang. Dude, I watched this short earlier, and they kept calling her Miss Huang. Like, that's not her name.
Rude.
So like, every time I'd go to say her name, I have to like catch myself.
Huang,
yes. And I feel bad for Miss Huang. Like, she's just kind of like getting booted, But yeah, we kind of get like a montage of a lot of stuff here. We get Dylan, Miss Wong, Irving. We see Irving in the train. Dylan gets in the elevator. We see flashes of the dark hallway. And then we see the elevator close on Dylan. We hear the ding, and that's the end of it for now, at least. And then we are with Mark, Devin, and Cobelvig. Mark climbs into the back and gets covered in the bed of the truck. And we see the dark hallway again, and it's like zooming in to the elevator door. And then the bell dings. Like, I don't feel like it's building tension. I know, but like nothing is by accident. Like it's significant. I just don't know what that is.
Right.
Maybe they are sending Dylan to the testing floor. I don't know, but I think I don't know. I think I could be wrong, obviously, but he might go down there.
Yeah,
which would be interesting.
What do we know about the testing floor?
Well, right now it just looks like it's specifically designed for Gemma.
Right.
Are
But
there
like outside of Gemma, like we haven't been down there. We don't know of anyone else who's been sent down there.
We haven't seen anyone else down there. So, and from the little bit we've seen, it might be a section of the testing floor. Maybe there's other sections of the testing floor. Maybe it's segregated parts, like,
wow, it's not very 2025 of them.
Right? What is this? Are we going back to the 50s?
Yeah, come on, guys.
So
do better, Lumen.
For real. And then, okay, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I don't.
Why is Mark riding in the bed of a pickup truck when he has like a hole in the back of his head? Pretty sure brain juice would be spilling out.
I don't think it's like that. I think he got sewn up. I mean,
they just put like a cork in there.
Yeah, tap it in there with a hammer. You're good, buddy. Regabi was, the whole situation, the whole surgery, all that was sketchy, but she was a doctor or is a doctor, so I trust that she would have taken care and closed him up properly. That, there wouldn't just be a gaping hole in the back of his head whistling by the wind. What is that? Mark whistling again.
Someone take the tea off. That's only when Mark gets angry.
Yeah. Unplug him. He's getting unhinged.
That's a bunch of terrible jokes. I apologize.
It's all right. So the very next part is Helly studying the directions of Irving's note.
Yeah.
She's in MDR, and then we see someone walking in, and the person's blurred, and then we see it's her dad.
Yes. I said raw. I'm just kidding. Oh, dude. But yeah, like what the heck? Why is she trying to memorize it because she doesn't want to be caught with them on her?
Maybe.
Because it's not like because it's not like Mark trying to like burn a message into his eyes because he's going to be severed, but maybe she knows that or thinks that different floors might sever her again or something. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's just probably the fact that if something happens to the paper, she wants to,
True.
know what to do.
Right.
But maybe, there might be something to that. She might not know, what to expect. So she's just taking every, every precaution to like
True.
be okay, to make sure that she can get there without any interruptions. So first of all, why is her dad there?
He
And
owns the
then,
place, bro.
but it's the first time we see him on the severed floor. Like he has no business
Yeah.
being. I mean, obviously it's his, but like he doesn't need to go down there. He doesn't need to be there at all. Like he's got plenty of people running the place. There's 2, sometimes 3 people on the severed floor taking care of 4 people that are
Yeah. I don't
zombies.
know. It's a good question. I didn't even really think about it until you just asked, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense why he would be down there.
What also doesn't make sense is what he says. He says, "You tricked me, my heli." What do you mean? What are you talking about? And she even says, "What?" um so I don't know what that's going to lead to, but I was really hoping that she would get to the testing floor, and I'm still holding on to my theory that her and Mark get down there somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say she's probably faster and stronger than her dad. So she could just like push him over and
as
then run.
Heli, yeah, she wouldn't care who he is.
Oh, yeah,
As Helena,
that's true. She doesn't
would
even
be.
know. She shouldn't know who he is, right? Well, no, she should know that he's an Egan, right? But maybe do you think she? Well, no, she does know she's an Egan because she said Heli
She knows.
E.
She knows that
Yeah.
she's an
Oh
Egan,
my
but she
gosh.
doesn't recognize him. She might just be another. He might just be another boss. Maybe he's an upper
You don't
management.
think there's any like portraits or statues of him down there? Because they have all the other
Of Kier,
Egan.
but
Yeah,
not
but there's
not
like, aren't
James.
there like statues of like the lady Egan who ran the school or whatever in that one room or whatever?
Yeah. Well,
I can't think of exactly what.
perpetuity wing, where they had all the
That's the one.
statues.
Yeah.
But I don't.
We'd have to go back and double check, but there's a high
Well,
chance that she doesn't know who that is.
Well, even if. Okay, so let's say she does recognize him from the room of Egan's, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she would put 2 and 2 together that that's her dad.
True.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Either way you could slice it, she's still confused.
Yeah, for sure.
She's like, "Who are you? Why are you
Probably more
here? What do you
confused
want?"
than us trying to sort it all out.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very interested to see where that goes. Okay, so now this is the ending.
Yes.
They're pulling up to the birthing place, the resort. A bunch of cabins, the birthing cabins. They pull up to the gate where the guard is. Cobelvig says, "We're going to Cottage 5." The guard says, "We don't have anyone scheduled." And this is the part where I was talking about earlier. Cobelvig says she's one of James.
Oh, yes. The
No
pin has
one,
been taken out.
no one's to know. Miss Marsha White, 9th floor. The guard says specialties department. And then for some reason, Kobelvig says, "I'm looking for a gold thimble."
It's probably like a code phrase to like almost like a password type deal, you know?
I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so this, what I said earlier about the cult and the leader of the cult getting with all the women.
Mhm.
They are saying they're saying that Devin is one of James's women.
Mhm.
And I think they even kind of like
Yeah,
stuffed
they
her
make her
shirt.
look yeah.
Yeah. So I'm convinced. I think that's what this is. I think they get these women pregnant somehow. I don't want to get into details. I don't care about the details.
Jeff, when a man loves a woman, no.
You see,
Yeah, I mean, you've
yeah,
had 17, so I mean,
I've been severed each time. Okay,
no comment.
but for real, it would make sense why, if we're going down this path, that they have the birthing retreats,
Mm-hmm.
that the women don't want to remember giving birth to someone else's kid.
Yeah, or just remember what we talked about last week, that short about like, well, it wasn't last week, it was the week before, where like all the test Gemma's going through are just kind of trying to make sure that no traumatic experience can break the Severance program or whatever.
And this would be a good test for that.
And this would be a thing where you basically sever so you can subject your innie to all the torture and trauma that you don't want to experience. And anyone who is a parent and been through a part of birth of a child, it's a pretty crazy experience for the woman. So, yeah. So maybe it's like a combination of the two, right? Where we're seeing like the people using this as a trauma escape, but then also it's being used for
testing.
The birthing of Egan's offspring.
So yeah, so then it would be three things: the two that you said, and then a test to see if anything is leaking through, like to make sure that the severance procedure actually works.
Mm-hmm.
Because we remember Devin seeing the other woman, and then that woman doesn't recognize Devin. So that clearly worked for that very intense moment for that woman.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't remember any of it. So I think it's also a testing. So just like the testing floor with Gemma, like all these really like super intense things that would be traumatic for anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
To test to make sure that they don't bleed through, because they want to make sure that it's working.
Yeah.
And it obviously it is. So yeah, it's crazy.
But like, let's talk about why they're taking Mark there.
Yeah. So we see him in the back of the truck, and he transitions to innie Mark, who is now in the cabin. Devin is there, and the reason, I don't know why, but they brought innie Mark to talk to Cobelvig,
mm-hmm.
who is waiting for them at the top of the steps.
Yeah, she's like, hold on, let me get up here first.
Let me set the scene. Let me light the fireplace behind me and stand there awkwardly.
Yes, I must look
very menacing,
intimidating. Yeah. So are they bringing Mark there so innie Mark can talk to Cobel, or are they somehow trying to have a conversation between innie and outie Mark? Because one of my coworkers, Taylor, I don't know if you're watching. If you are, thanks. We talk about Severance all the time, and she was thinking that they're trying to get innie and outie Mark to talk, and then I was thinking about it pretty much all day. And I was like,
how though?
If they were, yeah, exactly. How would that happen? Would it be like, maybe this would be so annoying? Like, they go in the cabin, innie Mark like writes a question or like answers a question, then they take Mark out of the cabin, and outie Mark sees what innie Mark wrote, and they're that's the only way I could think of that would like make sense.
A whole episode of them just going back and forth. That's the finale.
But yeah, but like, what would innie Mark and Cobel like talk about? would she tell him about the testing floor, where Gemma is, like what's going on, and like how is that going to help Audi Mark?
I think.
Which, okay, so answer my question, but then we're going to talk about. I thought, like, what's the progress of the reintegration?
Yeah, because it's not
Because
really
he's
done.
severing.
It's not happened. Like,
Yeah.
it just kind of happened and then stopped.
Answer the first question.
Okay. Off the top of my head, I think that they're going to catch up any Mark, catch him up on everything. And they're going to devise a plan to use any Mark to get into Lumen, to get to the testing floor, to get the Gemma, to get her out. So they've got to convince him to do this because Gemma's really no one to any Mark, right?
But he knows about her.
Well, yeah, but
like, because he's trying to find her already.
But that's it. Like, there's no tie to, like, he doesn't feel any. Like, Audi Mark obviously has a very strong connection to her,
Right.
but any Mark, okay, so she's alive and she was my Audi's wife. Okay. Like, I mean, that obviously means something, but like, he has feelings for Helly. Like, it's complicated. But I think that I could be totally wrong. But I feel like part of the plan is to convince any Mark to go along with this and to go get Gemma somehow. Because any Mark is the only one that's going to be able to go in there.
Right.
That saying that the reintegration isn't complete.
Right.
However, from the trailer that I've seen, Cobelvig says, this is not a honeymoon ending for you. So I think it's hinting at, Mark's not going to get what he wants out of this unless she's talking to any Mark. Because if any Mark wants to be with Helly, Cobelvig saying that means you may be feeling this way, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work out for you because Audi Mark is the Mark that's going to walk away from this with Gemma. So any Mark is going to have heartbreak. So I could see it being that way instead of her saying that to Audi Mark, but it could honestly go either way at this point.
Right.
I don't know. That might be it. I don't know. I've been wrong 80% of the time when it comes to this show. So
yeah.
Even with like them throwing like so much at us, like
right.
It's crazy. Like they're giving us things like in plain sight, and it's still getting blown away by the reveals.
I don't think it'll take much convincing of any Mark because like he was already on board.
Yeah,
like
he was changing,
and even with Heliar, like they, like even after all of their entanglements and whatnot, he was still like, hey, I'm still trying to find Miss Casey.
Yeah.
Like, are you okay with that? And she's like, yeah.
I'm going to help you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. It is interesting because like maybe any Mark doesn't fully understand the repercussions of him accomplishing that, mission or whatever quest he's on. But yeah, I'm more curious. I mean, I'm very curious about that. But after thinking about that, I'm like, so wait a second. Is he reintegrated? Or like, does he still become severed, but because he's reintegrated, like Audi Mark now knows about any Mark, but maybe any Mark doesn't know about Audi Mark? Or Or like, I don't know, like, what's your idea on this? Because he
So
clearly, like, the switch flipped when they came in here.
I think that first of all, I think it's going to get a lot messier before it gets better. It's going to get really bad
Nice.
before anything gets good. I think more has been revealed to Audi Mark, because when he is Audi Mark going through the procedure with Rigabi,
Mhm.
he's having these flashes of being with Helly, and he's like, "What? What?"
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. Like, I think it's the line is getting blurred
Mhm.
for them. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
Useless.
I know. I I I don't think the reintegration is done.
I think it's more of a
Obviously,
process and not a like an instantaneous thing.
well, it's definitely not instant. Like it something obviously happened,
Mhm.
but I think because the severance procedure is still working, like he's still going,
Yeah.
like in the cabin, he became any mark and was totally disoriented. Like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
he didn't know where he was, and he saw Cobelvig, and he's like, "What? Why am I here?" Well, and then Devin asks him if he remembers the last thing that he said to her, and he's like, "She's alive."
Yeah.
So there's still very much a divide and a disconnect between the two. Or I think that since Kobelvig created the procedure, maybe she's gonna basically say, I can make it be one way or the other. Like, I could totally make this work for you. You have to decide
Mm.
if you want to go on, or she's gonna give them the option of who dies, basically,
Oh, jeez.
which would be nuts.
Yeah.
And how that would be like played out between the two of them would be interesting. And like, it makes me think of the intro where they're like not necessarily battling each other, but like there's like this
The
back and
tug
forth with
of
them.
war. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that is an interesting thought. Man. Yeah. Still a lot of questions to be answered. That's for sure.
But I love it, and I feel like the finale is going to be really crazy, especially at like 70 some minutes long, the
Mhm.
longest episode of the series. I think it's going to be big, and I think we're going to be very sad.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
there's
guess
going to
we'll
be a
find
lot of
out.
jaw-dropping moments.
Do you ever wonder, like, if the creators of the show, like, what they think when they hear people like, well, I mean, not that they would ever hear people like me and you talking about this, but like people sitting there theorizing about like trying to make sense of this show. There's like, if you guys only knew.
Well, I think Ben Stiller responds to some tweets.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think they love like playing on our heartstrings.
Yeah. And I love how like when season 1 came out, like Ben Stiller and Adam Scott, they're like, is anyone even gonna watch this?
We wondered the same thing too, like,
Yeah, yes, we did.
because we were all about it.
Yeah, I feel happy for them that season 2 is having such a big splash.
It's so
Yeah.
good, man.
Yeah, man, next week should be fun, and it will be triply fun because we'll have a third person here to talk about it. It should be
Yes,
fun.
yes. Oh man, I'm nervous and excited.
Yeah.
Like I'm nervous because I just with this show, like you just have there's just a sense of dread. Like something is coming and
Yeah.
you're not going to be ready for it no matter how much you prepare mentally. Um it's yeah. I don't want it to happen, but I want to know what happens, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I got.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I don't know why I clapped, but yeah, man, one episode to go, and our Severance campaign series will be over for at least 2 or 3 years whenever they decide to release the next season. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. We're gonna be kicking into Star Wars season in a couple weeks. As soon as we finish up Severance, we're going to be diving into Andor season 1 in preparation for season 2, which
Yeah.
releases, I think, in April. Um, Obviously in April. I think maybe like the middle of April or something like that. So be on the lookout for that, and make sure you subscribe. Go check out Pokey Boys. Go watch House of David, and go make Dad happy and sign up to be a patron. You know,
Yes.
just makes him so happy. But I got, a farm to tend to over here. Rusty's getting a little antsy, and yeah, we'll see you next week, guys.
Peace.
Bye.